We just bought this Camaro SS for $1,800, which would be an absolute steal if, of course, it hadn't burned to the ground. But here's the deal. We're gonna salvage and sell off everything that survived the fire, and that should leave us with this 6.2 liter LS3 engine to swap into Fernando's M3 for free. Of course, there's the alternative outcome where this engine's torched too, in which case that $1,800 might as well have been in the glove box when it went up, but I suppose we're not gonna find out in the parking lot. Yeah, the whole burned down Chevy thing's obviously becoming a trend at this point. The last one worked out okay, so I figure what could one more possibly hurt? Now, maybe the craziest part about this one is in the auction pictures, it had a giant cow hood on it and no pictures underneath it. So nobody that was bidding on it, us included, had any clue what we were getting. Now, at some point between when we won the car at auction and when it showed up here at the shop, the hood just disappeared. I assume based on this that it just flew off the transporter, so it's probably somewhere on the side of a highway between Atlanta and here. Given that this thing was a complete blind purchase, I was really just hoping it wasn't a molten pile of aluminum under the hood, and at the very least, it looks like that's not the case. At first glance, at least, it seems like most of the bones, the important stuff, all that survived, and not only that, well, somebody's put a little bit of work into this thing too. We got a high ram intake manifold, there is a set of BBK aftermarket headers. We've also got a catch can here, not that that's any good anymore. And then there's this. This is an ethanol content sensor, or I suppose was an ethanol content sensor, and that implies that they were running 85 fuel in it. That's not something you usually do on a stock LS. There's just not much to be gained unless you're forced induction, which clearly this one isn't, or you have a built engine, or at the very least, a cam.
So this thing was definitely chopping though.
She might be, which means you might be chopping. The M3 is gonna be chopping.
Ooh.
But before we pull this engine out, see what we're working with, we gotta try to recoup our money. And the good news is that shouldn't take very long because there is pretty much nothing good on this thing. The front end, outside of hopefully the drivetrain, is basically garbage. The interior is not basically garbage, it is just garbage. There is nothing good in there. This is definitely a looks better from behind type deal. But it's actually not the worst thing in the world. There's something real expensive underneath there that should be far enough away from the fire that survive perfectly fine. But the first thing on the agenda is our rear bumper here, and, well, it's gonna get a little ugly. Okay, got it. Usually, you're supposed to open this with either the button on the key fob or the one inside the car, but obviously there's no electrical power to this car anymore. And the emergency release, you're supposed to access that through the rear seat, which is now melted to the chassis. So this was pretty much our only option. And luckily, somebody, I guess not luckily, but at some point somebody had pulled this spoiler off of here with what looks like the world's biggest pry bar and already jacked this trunk up. So it doesn't matter too much. And check all this out. Texas Speed, BMR, ooh. They'll raised hell. This is cool. This is a good sign, right?
Any good speakers?
This is part of that cow hood. Oh, definitely part of that cow hood. This is all we have left of it. I'm gonna say right to the trash can outside.
Definitely.
Now, usually, these rear bumpers really aren't worth a whole lot. They're like $200 if they're in great shape. But this one has this Aero Kit lower lip on it, which, if it's OEM, means this is worth quite a bit more. And it is. Yep, that is a factory Chevy part number right there. These have been discontinued from GM for quite some time now. And when you can find them used, they're like $300-ish. Now this one, they've done a little bit of, what do we call that, modification to?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did some exhaust block-off plates on it, and at the same time, cut up the rear lip there. So this one probably isn't quite that. It probably means the whole bumper is worth like $350 now instead of $200. Damaged or not though, one thing that rear bumper gives me a little hope on are these side skirts. These are also the Aero Kit side skirts. If the rear was OEM, I suspect that these will be too. Once we fish them out of here.
Good job, buddy.
Almost, there we go. Let's see. Yep, there we are, right there. General Motors genuine accessories. These guys, given that they're OEM and not some of the really cheap aftermarket copies of them, are worth about 300 bucks, which doesn't sound like a ton, but considering that the standard side skirts that come on these, the black plastic ones that are the same as all the V6 cars, are effectively trash, these always feel like a real nice bonus when you can get them. The bad news is, that's all we're getting out of the body, because pretty much every other panel is jacked up in some way, shape, or form. The good news is, though, that's $650 back already from just 2 parts, and I really can't argue with that, right? I did honestly think we were going to get a few more parts out of the exterior, but pretty much every panel is just jacked up in some way, shape, or form. The front end kind of speaks for itself, but even some of the parts that I kind of thought we might get, things like this headlight or the fog light, they're torched on the backside, so we can't really do anything with those either. One thing we can definitely do something with, though, are these wheels. Now, judging by the sticker in the trunk, I assume at some point this had a set of welds on it. Maybe a nice drag pack, and obviously it'd be real nice to still have that. But usually when you get these Camaros, the stock wheels are so beat, people generally just don't take care of these things that well, that I don't think we're in any position to complain about a nice, not curved up set of factory wheels. Check that out.
Ooh. What is that though? That's impressive though.
Is that the word?
I guess.
They drilled out that entire stud basically. That is, you know what? That is impressive.
Yeah.
I don't really know how, but I don't see any heat that got into this tire either.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy.
What if they actually swapped the wheels?
I was just about to say that.
After the fire.
I would not doubt that. Basically, none of these are like as tight as they should be either. Ooh. If there's no heat on this wheel too, I think that's what happened.
They prefer to keep the wheels.
There is no heat here. When you see a fender well that looks like this, it obviously took a ton of heat to the point where the spring deformed kind of like it did on the OG Demon. There's just no way you're getting out of that without a melted tire too. You know, that whole tire situation's got me thinking.
Uh-huh.
You don't have welds on it. You don't have ED5 unless you did something to the engine, right? Like, on one hand, I want to say that, but, I mean, LS guys put drag pack on anything, right? Your car chirps second because it's cold out one morning, boom, ordering bead locks. That's how LS guys think. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because bead locks are awesome. We got our Brembo brakes here, which every single Camaro SS came with. They became, like, kind of popular to swap on to other cars. You can get a full set of 4 of these for like 300 bucks these days, so it's really no surprise why there's kits to throw them on like everything. Oh man, they had the LED light package on here too.
Wow.
And the wire is zip tied around the sway bar. Fortunately, the rest of the suspension is going to be real thin. All these arms, even the hubs and whatnot, are so mass-produced because they have all those V6 cars out there that you can get new arms for like 20, 30 bucks sometimes. If this was like a really clean, low-mileage car, ours would have some value, but we obviously don't know mileage on this thing. We never have the way to know it for sure. So the only thing that's really worth anything are these rear struts, and that's just because they have BMR lowering springs on them. Ooh, almost lost her there. I think these guys, and that would be nice if we had a matching front set, which obviously we don't, should get us like 100 bucks. And really, the only other thing that could remotely be considered suspension under here are the axles. And Chevy actually did a really nice job on these. Unless you're putting an insane amount of power through them, they don't really have problems with them braking. They don't really wear out. They're still worth like 100 bucks for the pair. So between the wheels, the brakes, and anything we can remotely consider suspension, is another 1,000 bucks, which means we only have $150 in this thing, and we're about to get to one of the most expensive pieces on here, so we're gonna be in the green real soon, as long as everything's good with it. These Camaro differentials are worth a lot of money, but they are fragile. Unlike the axles, these things tend to get eaten up all the time, and it is not uncommon. Ooh. Well, I was gonna say that it's not uncommon that you see really nasty fluid coming out of it, sometimes chunks of metal, but this one's actually really nice.
Ooh.
Just a little bit of sludge, no pieces, nothing you can even feel. I'll take it.
Did you smell that?
Smell like money. So go ahead and get this exhaust out of the way, make that diff a little easier to pull. the exhaust that they were dumping right by the diff because they didn't want to run mufflers on it, which gotta admit, it's kind of cool. Now, these 5th gen Camaros came with 3 different rear differential options, at least when it comes to the SS. There's the automatic, which is a 327. Then you got the manual ones like this one with the TR6060 6-speed. Then you have a 345. Then you got the SS 1LE, which is like a more track-focused version of the SS. And then you have a 391 in them. And as those numbers go up, so do the prices. The 327s are like $700. The 345s, these are like $1,200, and then the 391s are like $1,500. Once in a while in a modified car like this one, we get lucky and someone will have swapped the 391 into it. That's not the case here. That's a 345, but still, it's crazy to think that if you get these cars cheap enough, the rear diff can almost pay for it. And we got our drive shaft, which is another $150, which means we're $1,200 in the green on this pile of trash, and we haven't even touched any of the good stuff. Now, the only thing standing between us and the spoils of our effort here is this gas tank. And not that I really think it's gonna have some crazy aftermarket fuel system in it, being that it's an all-motor car, but you never know. They had E85 running through it at some point. Cool. Oh, this is heavy. This is a lot of gas. This is a 100% stock fuel pump, which is worth like all of $50 on a good day. Well, the good news is we got a full tank of 93 octane. And hey, it might not be 10 gallons of free 93 octane, but with the sponsor of today's video, Upside, you can earn cash back on gas, groceries, and dining. And yes, it's cash back. Not points you'll never use, not credits that expire, just money you transfer straight to your bank account. And here's how it works. It's real simple, all right? You open the app, claim an offer, pay with your card like normal, and then you get paid. Like I said, real simple. Upside users earn $1 million in cash back every single week, and unlike other programs, you can stack Upside with your existing credit card and loyalty rewards. Especially when we're traveling the races, towing, getting like 7.5 miles a gallon. I've been able to earn a significant amount of money. Upside's giving back $1 billion to its users. To find out how much you can earn, download the free Upside app and use code SCRAPPED to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank of gas by using the promo code SCRAPPED. You ready for the moment of truth here?
Oh, what's your expectations?
It's a fire car. So, I mean, sometimes fire car is okay, but more often than not, they're not okay. So, let's see. I mean, clear oil, maybe. Water gets into fire cars so easily, so. Come on. Oh, not again! Not again! Well, you hate to see that, huh? You really don't like that. How much water do you think is going to be in there?
Oh.
Okay, that's not that. That's really weird looking, though. Isn't it? That's like that is not good. That's like a lot of water.
Oh my god!
It's like clear. I have usually the water will come out first, and then you'll have the oil. This it looks like it's a well. No, now we're down to just oil. You know, I'm not going to try to put a spin on this, but I'm definitely going to try to put a spin on this. That's not the most water's ever came out of one. Things could still be okay. Question is, how did it get in?
Ugh.
So we're going to pull cylinder heads off this because obviously we have to, and we'll see how much work Fernando's going to have to do to get this engine tip-top.
Tip-top. Well, you know.
Just run it, it'll clean up.
Everything good is worth working for.
That's true. You know how like rusty brake rotors, you just run the car, the rust will come off? Same thing will happen to cylinders.
I don't think that applies to that.
It'll work. Jesus Christ! That was in there. So this is the factory secondary O2 sensor. The primary is up there, and they also have added themselves a wideband, which I guess we would have no way of knowing from inside the car because it's burnt to a crisp.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you know, I thought we were going to get like $300 in scrap value out of these Cadillac converters here, but no, we will not be. Somebody's gutted them. Now, one thing here that might be a little complicated, or at the very least messy, is our shifter. This is still possibly good, so I really don't want to go cutting it. We're going to try to get it out the old-fashioned way by unbolting it. Well, can't say I pulled a shifter out that way before. I'm 100% positive we forgot something. I might as well send it up and find out. Ooh, those headers. Oh, we're past. We're past. Gucci. Oh. Usually all these cracks and groans would be a real bad thing, but on this, it really just doesn't matter. What do you think? Least graceful engine removal of all time?
Definitely.
It works though, right? All right, let's get this thing up off the subframe, try to get her stripped down and see exactly what we're working with.
Whoa.
That wasn't too bad.
That was good.
So this is the TR6060. It's kind of just a modern version of the T56. It's an awesome transmission. It holds a ton of power. And the craziest thing about them is they're worth like $3 grand, even in used condition like this. So if we really wanted to, we could sell this thing and get almost double what we paid for the car, when it also happens to be the perfect transmission for an M3 swap.
Really?
Yeah, imagine that, huh? Yeah, there we go, exactly. So we'll end up sitting that aside. Even if this engine ends up being torched and just absolute junk, which I kind of doubt, we'll have a transmission solution for the M3 project whenever that happens, and then we'll be on the hunt for another pile of junk for an engine.
You're doing a great job.
Don't
buddy.
even start. Got a Hirsch shifter on it, and actually kind of cleans up pretty well. What kind of shape you think the stock clutch is going to be in? Usually not great on a modified manual Camaro.
Ooh. It's not bad.
So you see this a lot on fire cars. Water, I guess, gets down in the bell housing. Maybe the heat just kind of makes it more prone to rust, but I think it's safe to say this hasn't moved in quite some time.
Yeah.
Well, it does have some meat left on it, right?
Yeah.
There's no way this can be the original clutch. Either that or the car's really low mileage.
The main part is there, right?
Exactly. Pull it open, it says 5.3 on it.
Oh.
Something tells me this whole engine teardown ain't gonna be too hard. I feel like there's a lot we can just kind of roll out from the jump. Pretty much everything up on top of the engine. That was slick, right?
Uh-huh.
Definitely not the way you're usually supposed to remove these, but it's always a good sign when you don't have to stick a wrench on a fitting in the back of the intake manifold, right? This really does feel like the Demon, doesn't it?
Definitely.
When you pull out these spark plug wires, they're doing the same thing as the coil packs on the OG Demon where the rubber just turns to like that. I don't know what the word is for it, but that. And one of the things that actually looks like it might have survived here are these little BBK shorty headers. Probably has something to do with the fact that they're designed to be, withstanding of heat, right? Like, that's kind of their whole deal.
These sides look a little bit better, though.
It does. I mean, we thought the fire started over there. It had to have started over there. And one thing that's kind of odd is this side, the spark plug wires still have the little heat shields on them. Ironically, this says DS, which presumably means driver side. It's definitely not the driver side. But yeah, everything just in general looks better over here. The bolts are like marginally tighter as well. Of course, that could be because somebody simply tightened the side a little better, or it could be because it saw less heat. On the OG Demon, it got so hot that there were bolts that just were hand tight. Not even remotely tight. That thing still to date is the worst fire car we've ever bought. And honestly, I'm not itching to buy another one that's that bad anytime soon because that was a complete and utter nightmare. The shorty headers are kind of an interesting design. You don't see a lot of people run them anymore. Everybody wants long tubes for good reason. They make more power. But these are really like nice and compact, aren't they?
Definitely.
They might work in an M3. I guess this is also gonna be our first look inside the cylinder heads, which is gonna be really hard to tell until we open this thing up if anything actually got damaged. We'll have to make sure that the head bolts, they're all tight as they should be, nothing warped or deformed there. But even if everything comes out perfectly fine, we're still gonna have to send it to the machine shop and have this whole thing gone through. We gotta look inside of it, right? We gotta see what's going on the inside.
It's probably empty, though.
I wouldn't doubt that. There's the O-ring coming out as dust.
Oh.
You're gonna need a catch can on that M3.
Oh my God.
as a tribute to where the engine came from, I think we should run it on the M3. Because look, that shaking around inside was just this part that came off. So tighten that back up. I mean, it's as good as new, as far as I'm concerned, right? Fix it up with the new O-ring. Maybe even spray some clear coat on it. Yeah. I guess before we pull the intake manifold off and really start getting a look down inside this thing, we might as well strip all this front accessory drive off of, which we know most of it is just going to be straight trash. I love this stuff. I really do. Like, I know this isn't a good situation, but it's always fun.
Wow.
It's actually not as bad as you think it is. Yeah, I was thoroughly convinced all this was going to be garbage, but given the condition of it, and that even a lot of this fat plastic survived, I think we might actually send this one out, try to have it rebuilt, if of course it's cost effective as opposed to just using it as a core.
It's leaking.
Yeah, it has a tendency to do that when you take it off, you know? Another thing we're not going to need for the whole swap deal is these motor mount brackets. Most of the swap kits out there replace this factory motor mount bracket with one of their own that mounts these 4 mounting bosses in the engine block. That way you can set the bracket forwards, backwards, in, out, whatever, so it lines up with whatever subframe you're mounting it to. That way you can keep the rubber portion of the motor mount completely in line, one stud out the top, one stud out the bottom. Go ahead and get our intake manifold off here. And I was always under the impression that high rams were expensive. This one is not. It is like 300 bucks on eBay, Amazon, probably half that on Alibaba. And it turns out the internet has deemed this the Chai Ram.
Wow.
What do you think that means?
What a name.
I don't know where they got that from, but you know. To pull us off, there's a listening device inside for the old People's Republic.
Oh.
Is there supposed to be rusty water in the cylinders? Or
I don't
no?
think so.
You know, water sitting on top of the valves in the cylinder head, in and of itself, really isn't that big of a deal, I guess. Probably turn it over, pour it out, whatever. But one of these 2 valves is going to be open at the moment, so you can almost guarantee at this point that there's also water that's got through the cylinder heads and is now sitting right around there on top of the piston. You were saying something along the lines of like, you want to do a stroker.
Yeah, I never say that.
Big engine, 416, money's no object. Those were your words, right?
I don't even know what that means.
On a positive note, all the valve cover bolts were tight and the gasket hasn't disintegrated.
Ooh.
All right, we got valve train, which we suspected this is canned, right? Not only did it have that Texas Speed sticker in the trunk, but we saw this earlier. That is an aftermarket crank bolt. It almost certainly means this has been off because it's been canned. Now the valve train confirms that. So it's not a matter of if this thing's canned, it's a matter of how choppy is it, right?
Oh, yes.
Then again, this doesn't really hit the same. Actually, now that we know this thing's probably full of water. Got some aftermarket push rods in there, 7.4 inch rods to be specific.
Oh, buddy.
Well, guess we found which valves were open, huh?
Oh, agua.
I don't know what reasoning I have to believe this one's any better, but you know.
Well,
I mean, there's rust, there's not standing water.
definitely though. It's better.
It just needed to be broken free. A couple rotations.
We should put W40
We
in those.
probably should put something in there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, given the condition, it spins over okay. Every once in a while, you do get lucky and buy one of these burn cars and have just no water in the engine and everything turns out to be fine. Obviously, this ain't one of those times. This is more or less, I guess, what you should expect when you're buying a car like this. It turns out that way more than 50% of the time, but there's still a ton to work with here. This forward cylinder on the passenger side, which is number 2, and that's going to be our worst one. There's some pretty heavy rust pitting on the front of that you can definitely feel. We're obviously going to have to bore these cylinders. That one's probably the one I'm most concerned about. The one behind it, number 4, there's definitely some vertical scoring on this wall. That's got beat up a little bit. The driver's side definitely fared better. There is some really minor pitting that you can't really feel on these cylinder walls. And then the rear one, cylinder number 8, and that has a little more aggressive pitting, but you can't feel it anywhere near as bad as you can over here on the passenger side.
At least so far, we got good push rods that you probably can reuse.
That is
Ball
the
springs.
smallest win. Yeah, the valve train's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And the cylinder heads in general, how they look.
Not bad, though.
Really not bad. You have a little bit of rust on the valves.
Oh, I thought it was beat up.
No.
Yeah.
That's just discoloration. That's fine. These, I'd actually say you get away with these just having like a light refresh. The rockers, all that stuff's fine. Check out this other cylinder head. The heads aren't beat up. Wow, check that out.
Ooh,
That is a piece of hood that fell into an open valve, and then we pulled the rockers off, closed on it. That's kind of funny. Set of LS3 heads is cores alone. Man, I mean, the floor is already screwed up at this point anyway. I guess it doesn't matter. A set of LS3 heads alone, just as cores and rough shape, for like $800. So even if the block were completely trashed, which I don't think it is, still got something there. Given what we've seen on this engine so far, the fact that it has stock pistons, the fact that it has stock head studs, and just what the car is in general, this isn't going to be one of those times where we pull it off and find some crazy crank in a built engine. This is more for, I guess, inspection purposes, right? Pickup's clean. And a few little pieces of silicone or something in there.
Nothing major.
No, it is a little like, that's not just oil, that's water too, for sure. Ooh, it's clean, man. That's really clean. Look at that.
Ooh.
If you didn't know better, if you were just looking here, I think this is a nice engine.
Definitely.
Get ready to put the crank pulley puller tool on it. They killed this thing. Look at that. Last time they had it off. I don't know what tool did that, but ugh. It'll be fine, Fernando. Don't worry about it.
I don't like that.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's
my
all
God.
good. Shoo.
That looks
So clean. Everything here is really nice. It's just too nice to not be new.
Well, question though.
Let's hear it.
Just for mantelpiece, that will need to be replaced?
Honestly, I'd reuse it. It looks so clean. It's so isolated from the fire. Here's the perfect reasoning. I'm not just telling you to do it. On the OG Demon, I reused the oil pump. If the front of this looks like this, if the front main seal didn't melt or wasn't compromised in any way, the oil pump's going to be fine.
Yeah. Especially like
a lower mileage one? Yeah, I think so. There's really no need to be taking this off. We're not going to find any damage in here. I'm pretty sure of that. But I just want to see what kind of cam it has. This is... Nope. I don't think this is new. I think you should probably replace this just to be safe.
Oh my God.
But you don't want to cheap out and have this hurt you, right?
Just drop it.
I would replace this. We're going to replace that, all right?
Oh my God.
Little watermarks on it, but there's no corrosion, and the lobes look awesome.
That's the best part.
It is. So what we're going to do, though, is if you want to reuse this, if the cam specs look good and you want to reuse it, we're definitely going to have to lube her up for storage. Texas Speed, and there's the specs, upside down. So it looks like this is the Texas Speed Stage 2 LS3 naturally aspirated cam. The way they describe it, it'd be perfect for you. Still retains great drivability with even greater chop at idle. So, I mean, what more could you want, really? Whatever car they put this in, whatever they're using on their website is kind of like a demo vehicle. Made 568 horsepower.
Wow.
Now, that's maybe like on an engine dyno, because that's a lot of power for an LS3 with a kind of milder camshaft like this. But it's going to do well. I wouldn't be surprised if this car is making like 475 to 500. It had to have been an awesome car. It's going to be even better when it's an M3, honestly.
Lighter.
I like Camaros, but it is going to be lighter. It is going to handle really well. This is going to be a sick setup. So here's the plan. We're going to save everything we can use from this engine, and then for the block itself, along with the cylinder heads, we're going to send that up to the machine shop where Fernando's going to do a 427 stroker in it.
I never say that.
No, it'll probably end up being more like like an OEM plus rebuild.
I like that.
Like maybe aftermarket pistons, but
I
nothing.
want to see 500 wheel on that car.
500 wheel with like a little up compression, the cam. I think that'd be very doable. At the end of the day, the big win is we're taking a German motor out of a German car and replacing it with a big, dumb American V8. That about covers it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. See you next time.
Adios.
You know you won't want this engine to heat up, right?
Wow. I told know you're gonna fall.
It's gonna go in
I
there.
bet you it's not.
And then that one's gonna go in there, and this one's gonna go in there, and this one's gonna go out. Get out of here.
Wow, what?
Like the way how you handle the shaft, though.
Don't even start.